Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And I'm just going to get right into it. Today I'm going to be rating / giving my quick thoughts about I think it's 96 books that I've read in 2025 so far. And the purpose of this video, I know I usually try to speak at length about what I read, but the purpose of this video is for you to just get to know my tastes and what I read on a rapid basis. You can see what I like, what I don't like, and what I tend to gravitate towards in terms of genre or plot or whatever. This is nonfiction and fiction, couple poetry and plays mixed in. And I got them all on my iPad here, and I'm just gonna show you and give a few seconds on each. So this iPad is bigger than my hand, but we're starting off in general fiction. All Fire's the Fire by Julio Cortázar. Thought this was awesome. Cortázar's a great writer, and even though not much happens in these short stories, it is very powerful. Caveat, this is not ordered by date that I've read it. I've grouped them into different genre categories. So we got Ernest Hemingway, The Snows of Kilimanjaro and Other Stories. I thought this was fine, but Hemingway hasn't wowed me in anything so far. Another short story collection, The Assassination of Margaret Thatcher by Hilary Mantel. I did not care for these stories that much. There was some atmospheric things that I liked, but I didn't care for this collection. But I see how she could be a good writer in other avenues, like Wolf Hall, which I haven't read yet. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I didn't like this book at all. I thought it was way too slow to get to the point, and I didn't really care about, or I didn't think the tribal life in the first 60-70% of this book was interesting enough to warrant a novel of such classic status. The end was good. I liked the end, or how it was written at least. No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. I like this a lot better than The Road. I know it's similar to the movie, but I thought this was a really solid group of points of views mixed together into a really emotional and gripping story. So I really like this one. Inez by Carlos Fuentes. I'm a big Carlos Fuentes fan. I've called myself an apologist for Carlos Fuentes, but here is Fuentes at his worst. He tends to overwrite and not make sense, and Inez is a perfect example of this. So I wish I liked it, but couldn't. Larry McMurtry, Horsemen Pass By. This is his debut novel. It's the only thing of McMurtry that I've read. But I thought it was wonderful, and I see how he got to Lonesome Dove fame, because this was an excellent and sad little novel in his little town in Texas, or some town. Dracula, classic. I loved this. It is a little slow in its epistolary nature, but I thought it was a great story. Amazing friendships were developed during this, and of course it sets all the vampire tropes, or a lot of them that we know today. So just a great work. Next up we got Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu, and I read this right after Dracula, and I was really disappointed. I know this was published before Dracula, but I thought the story was repetitive and bland, and the only neat part of it was the gothic atmosphere. Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I really wanted to like this. I thought it would be in my wheelhouse, but Eco went too hard, I think. He went too dense, and I didn't understand a lot of it. And the parts that I did understand, I wish I liked more. But still willing to give Echo some more chances, but didn't especially care for this one. Catcher in the Rye. This was a reread, of course, from high school. I read it, and I like J.D. Salinger's shorter works better, but I appreciate Catcher in the Rye. I think it's a great work of mid-20th century literature, and yeah, I like it. I don't love it. I like it. Lolita. I was talking to some people recently, and I was saying how I don't remember why I liked Lolita, but I gave it 5 stars, and I'm pretty sure that is because of the writing. Like looking back, you remember the plot, and it's just kind of yucky. But it was enough to make me rate it 5 stars when I finished. So I'm gonna say I loved it, but of course with the subject matter, it's a little iffy. But I thought the writing was great when I read it. All right, this is moving into thriller, mystery, detective fiction. So these next couple are that. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, it's basically the Shakespearean version of The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And I had a lot of fun with this book. I don't think it was great in like the objective novel sense, but the following these really pretentious Shakespeare students was fun. So it was fun. The Dark Half by Stephen King. This was okay. It's about a writer coming to grips with his pseudonym. Classic Stephen King. It was fine. It was a little bit entertaining. So, Dark Half. John le Carré. We're getting into a few of his now. The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. I thought this was amazing espionage fiction, and it really drove me to seek out more le Carré because it was so good. So speaking of, Call for the Dead, this is his debut. It's more of a mystery than an espionage, but it was an okay novel. It also features George Smiley, who's one of le Carré's main characters. And the mystery was all right. Nothing to write home about. And next up, the second novel by John le Carré, A Murder of Quality, also featuring George Smiley. This is less of an espionage than even the prior entry. It's just a murder mystery at a rural school, like public school in England, and Smiley investigates. And I liked it. I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was that great. And of course, reading le Carré, you wish there was more espionage than zero. So, all right, my hand's getting tired. Airframe by Michael Crichton. I'm a big Crichton guy, but I know, for me at least, it depends. How much I like the book depends on how much I like the subject matter that I'm writing about, or that he's writing about. You know that it's going to be fast-paced, and you're going to learn something. And I thought this was a solid thriller, but it got a little bogged down in the airplane industry and how planes are made. So that kind of took my enjoyment down a little, but it's typical Crichton fare. So you can't really go wrong if you like Crichton. All right, Study in Scarlet, the first Sherlock Holmes novel by Arthur Conan Doyle. I really liked this. Of course, the first Holmes and Watson pairing, great to read, but there's a weird diversion in the second part, which I still enjoyed reading, but it's confusing once you get there. Next Sherlock Holmes novel, The Sign of Four, a lot worse than A Study in Scarlet, but you still get to hang out with Holmes and Watson, which is fun. Lawrence Block, In the Midst of Death. This is the third Matthew Scudder novel, or Matthew Scudder detective mystery novel. I like the Scudder novels. I've read 4 of them so far. They're all kind of the same, which might be a standard trope of the mystery genre, but I like these books. I think the first one was the best, but In the Midst of Death and A Stab in the Dark were both solid. I had fun, so that's all you can really ask for. All right, a couple more thrillers. Daniel Silva, The Mark of the Assassin, and The Marching Season. These are two of his earliest works. They're in the Michael Osborne series, and it's just cheap thriller story. So they were okay. Next up, Joan Didion, The Last Thing He Wanted. I thought this was incomprehensible garbage. Thornhead. Oh, we're getting into fantasy now. Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. It's a inverted retelling of Sleeping Beauty. Thought it was really stupid and poorly written. Land of Unreason by Elspeth Ducamp and Fletcher Pratt. Kind of had a neat premise going in with the alternate world fairyland from the mid-20th century, but it also became incomprehensible and nothing made sense. And I don't think it was supposed to make sense, but that didn't work. So, all right, the next three, David Eddings, Pawn of Prophecy, Queen of Sorcery, and Magician's Gambit, which I just realized all have chess terms in their titles. But these are the first three books of the Belgariad, like fantasy from the 1980s, I think. And it's kind of a Lord of the Rings-esque clone. I liked the first book, Pawn of Prophecy, just because it was kind of the standard humble farm boy beginning trope. But then book 2 and book 3 were basically the same, just in different locations of the map. And it really wore on me, and I stopped reading the series entirely because of that. Piranesi by Susanna Clark. Loved this. Such a cute and fun read. Also a little sad. One of my favorite books of the year. Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is cozy fantasy. It was all right. I did like the cozy vibes, but it was nothing happened, and it wasn't particularly well written. So just kind of middle of the pack. All right, The Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson. I just finished this. Way too long for what is going on, but I had fun in the last 200-300 pages out of 1,000. Homeland by R.A. Salvatore, a Legend of Drizzt novel from Dungeons & Dragons. I thought this was bad. All right, moving into sci-fi / dystopian, got Martha Wells' All Systems Red and Artificial Condition, the first two books in the Murderbot series. I thought the Murderbot books were kind of stupid, and they just preyed on the modern mindset of wanting to stay inside and watch Netflix. And I don't think they're actually good stories, and I don't think they have good characters other than Murderbot. So I stopped reading these. Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the only book on this list that I've read twice this year. Once via audio, which I don't normally do, and then once via physical. And this is a nice modern dystopian work, and short, and Adrian Tchaikovsky writes decently. So I like this and I recommend it. Red Rising. I reread this a while ago, and I still love it. I'm a simp for Red Rising, at least the original trilogy. I haven't read the rest, but something about it just gets me going. So I love Red Rising. Jules Verne, Journey to the Center of the Earth, a solid adventure tale, but nothing profound or great about it. H.G. Wells, The War of the Worlds. I was expecting more invasion, but what we did get, a nice like social observation of panic, it was all right. It was all right. I see its greatness in the genre as a story, but in execution it could have been better. Space Merchants by Fred Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. Uh, a nice, weird, genre-bending science fiction tale. It kind of reminded me of Philip K. Dick without the drugs and weirdness. I thought this was really solid. I liked it. Termination Shock by Neil Stephenson. Of course, typical Stevenson, it's bloated. Doesn't need to be that long. And he's in his billionaire adoration phase still, which I didn't really like the messaging that he put out. But if you want to read a climate change thriller, it's okay. This will do it for you. Philip K. Dick, The Man in the High Castle, not what I thought it was going to be. These are just a collection of strange storylines that exist in this world, where I thought the premise of the world was going to be the story. But the premise is just on the side, and there's just random things happening, and I didn't like it. I really wanted to like it, but I couldn't. And we got Unicorn Variations by Roger Zelazny, collection of short stories. I thought this was pretty good. None of the stories were especially awesome, but I want to read more Zelazny now to see if he's got the good stuff. John Varley, The Ophiuchi Hotline. This is one of my favorite science fiction novels ever now. It's really, really great stuff. There's neat concepts with cloning and interplanetary travel and systems that I hadn't really seen before in science fiction. And it's pretty old too. It's from the 70s or 80s. So it's not like it's a new thing. Really love this one. Brave New World, a classic. Thought it was great, obviously. Not obviously, I thought it was great though. Dune on second thoughts, I'm thinking Dune is my favorite book ever. In terms of all books, not just science fiction. This is a reread for me, and I think it vaulted itself over The Picture of Dorian Gray for my favorite book. So, Dune by Frank Herbert. Read it if you haven't. Ursula K. Le Guin, The Word for World is Forest. This is a space colonialization / subjugation of other races or creatures kind of story, kind of akin to Avatar, but with different messaging. And I like Le Guin as a writer. This probably isn't her best work, but I had fun with this one, so liked it. Master and Apprentice, a Star Wars kind of mystery tale with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't think the mystery was that good, and I didn't think that Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan acted like they did in the movies, but it was okay. I kind of like reading about Star Wars, I found out from this book. So. Dogs of War by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I like this a lot. There's a lot of great animal perspectives, animal-human hybrid perspectives. And this was such a fun and engaging book to read. So I'm on the prowl for more Tchaikovsky now. And Margaret Atwood, The Handmaid's Tale, another good dystopian novel. Not of the Brave New World echelon, I don't think, but really good stuff. All right, next up we're going into my Norman Conquest 1066 English History project, in which I started that in like July maybe, and I've read a few books in this category so far. So first we got the Norman Conquest, a short introduction from Oxford, very short introduction series, and this was utter garbage. It's not a very short introduction. It's just stuff that George Garnett wrote in previous technical books that he shoves or compresses into this. It's not helpful as an introduction at all. The Last Viking, the biography of King Harold Hardrada by Don Holloway. This is an awesome story. Holloway really gets the world spanning quest basically of Harold Hardrada, and he puts it into great context. So I really recommend this biography if you like Viking history or if you like any history. The Anglo-Saxons by Mark Morris, a history of Anglo-Saxon England from 400 to 1066. Really great informational work of history. Morris is an entertaining writer, and he breaks down 7 centuries of history into nice, manageable portions. So I thought this was really good. How the Irish Saved Civilization. There is a good 20-page book in here, but Thomas Cahill did not write that. And he makes all sorts of bold proclamations that I don't think hold up at all. And by the end, I found myself really disliking this book and Cahill as an author. Sorry. First King of England by David Woodman. This is a new biography of Ethelstan, King Ethelstan of England. I found this to be not entertaining at all. I know it's a nonfiction biography, but even I was snoozing. But there's a lot of good info in here. So only read if you're interested in Ethelstan himself. William I by Mark Morris. This is a little biography of William the Conqueror. You saw Mark Morris earlier. I like him as a writer. This was a nice compact biography of William the Conqueror that gets the job done. Next up, we are going into just general history. There's no category for these. Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. In the beginning, I thought this was just garbage, but by the end, Harari had won me over on a few points, and it's kind of entertaining to read, despite not being able to make this a brief history of humankind. So I was really conflicted reading this book, but I still am conflicted. I don't have true thoughts on it. 1776 by David McCullough. I was expecting more a story of the American Revolution itself. I didn't realize this was just the year 1776, what happened. It was a little too in-depth for what I was looking for because of that, but I won't knock McCullough for it. It was a good history book. 1931, Tobias Strawman. Same thing as 1776. This is about what happened between World War I and World War II and how Germany got there economically and why Hitler could rise to power so easily because of the economics. And same thing as 1776, it was just a little too in-depth for me. I don't know why I read it. I just had it. So I won't knock the book. I'm not a World War I or II scholar, so I can't say for certain if it's good or not, but I thought it was kind of boring. All right. The ISIS Apocalypse by William McCants. This is one of the many books published about ISIS in 2015, 2016 era, and it provides good context for the rise and the history and the rise of the Islamic State, Daesh, however you want to call it. And it also talks about some social aspects of living under ISIS or joining ISIS that I hadn't really considered. So this was a solid and informative. Now, The Looming Tower by Lawrence Wright was absolutely amazing. It covers the history of Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri and all the major players who perpetrated the 9/11 terror attack. And Lawrence Wright is great. He really puts the whole thing into perspective and links the key players without becoming obtuse or arcane or anything. So, a huge recommend from me. The Far Edges of the Known World by Owen Reese. This is a new history book. I thought it was good scholarship, but it was a little more than I wanted. I don't know why I read this, that's my fault. The Infernal Machine by Stephen Johnson. I've read Johnson before, and I liked his style of narrative nonfiction, and this is no different. This is a really fun work on early 20th century America and anarchism and terrorism and the rise of the modern police state. Johnson does a little too much here, but the book itself is really fun, and I learned a lot, so I think it's good. Next up, we got Josh Gibson by William Brashler. This was a decent biography of Gibson, but I thought it was better talking about the lives of Negro baseball players in general. I wish there was more on Gibson himself. A Noble Madness by James Del Borgo. This came out this year. It was a nice, fun history of collectors and the social idea of collecting, but it didn't leave an impression on me besides it being fun in the moment. Diogenes by Inger Kuhn. This is a new biography. I reviewed this for Open Letters Review. If you want to read that, it's on their website. This biography is full of ups and downs, and I know that because I really studied it compared to some of the other things that I read. But I think it's good that we have modern scholarship on Diogenes. This is the book that I finished most recently, Voices from Chernobyl. It was gripping and emotional, and by the end I was tired from reading all these just really sad monologues. So, good stuff though. Here we got Washington by Meg Greenfield. It's basically an anthropological look at Washington, D.C. in the late 20th century. I thought it was kind of icky in terms of having to learn about these duplicitous Washington creatures, but I like Greenfield's writing style. We got Bill Bryson's biography of Shakespeare. It is short and sweet, and I think it gets the job done. We don't know that much about Shakespeare, so you don't need to get all deep, I think, for a popular biography. Okay, I hope this is the home stretch because I'm getting tired of speaking this fast for this long. But we're getting into psychology/philosophy. Super Habits by Andrew Abella. This is a Catholic theological look at habits, and it's based on Thomas Aquinas. I thought it was okay. The Noonday Demon by Andrew Solomon. This is a huge work about depression and its history, how people experience it, the treatments and social aspects. It's a tough read for sure, but good nonetheless. Got Henry at Work by John Cagg and Jonathan Van Bell. This is basically a mini biography of Henry David Thoreau mixed with his philosophy of work. The book was entertaining enough, but I think you're better off just reading Thoreau. The Monsters We Make by Rachel Corbett. This is a book on criminal profiling, but it actually turns out to be Corbett surveying a number of famous criminals, and there's not much new here. Sex Beyond Yes by Quill Kukla. This is a book about post-consent sex. I thought it was horrible. I didn't agree with what Kukla was saying, and I didn't like how she was saying it. Or I may have said the wrong pronouns there. I apologize. I don't want to be that guy or anything, but, you know. The Secret History of Neoliberalism by George Monbiot and Peter Hutchison. I read this in January, and it's still one of my favorite books of the year. This is a political analysis of what neoliberalism is and how it was founded and where it's going and what people can do to try and stop it if they are so inclined. Not that it can be stopped, but who knows. Debt by David Graeber, 5,000 Year History of Debt. I really wanted to like this, but it was beyond me. It was more advanced than I was ready for, and that's on me. But I still liked what I understood about this. Front Row at the Trump Show by Jonathan Karl. Another entry in the Trumpist literature. Karl's an ABC reporter, I believe. And there wasn't really anything new. It's just, oh, I'm near the White House, so I'm going to write a memoir. On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. I came into the book wanting to like it, but yeah, it's just lazy scholarship. It's not a good book. No matter the message, it's not a good book. Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. We're starting religion and mythology now. Catch my breath. I thought C.S. Lewis would have better theological arguments for this being such a popular work, but it's kind of basic. Mythology by Edith Hamilton. This is a well-written account of mostly Greek myths, and I loved reading Edith Hamilton's takes or translations on these. I thought it was really good. More Than a Carpenter by the McDowells. This was terrible. It was terrible. How to Meditate by Lawrence LeShan. I thought this was a bad book as well. It goes through different meditational techniques, but I didn't really learn anything. I wasn't persuaded of anything by LeShan. The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. I don't know if I said that right, but this is a better book on meditation. Han is a Buddhist monk, or he was, and he really gets to the soul of the issue for him as a Buddhist on what meditation means, and it comes across really resolutely, and you get it if you read this. So, solid work. The Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu and Douglas Abrams. This, while it's not going to be a theological offering, it was a really fun read to see these two famous spiritual figures interact. They're really naughty and mischievous, which is funny. Huston Smith's The World's Religions. This was a great, I won't say it's comprehensive, but a great introduction to all the major players of religion in the world. And after finishing it, I'm not solid on any of them, or I'm not an expert in anything, is what I mean to say. Like, you can't be an expert in 400 pages covering every single religion. But it opened my eyes to more possibilities of things that I hadn't seen before, and it was good. How to Read Literature Like a Professor by Thomas C. Foster. Kind of a basic work of literary criticism, but I think it was helpful for me as a beginner to try and understand what I'm reading more. Write Clearly, Speak Effectively by M.L. Stein. It's not even a real picture of this because it's barely been in print. But this is a journalist's writing handbook, pretty much, and it's fine at best. Nuclear War by Annie Jacobson. This is her imagining of what the U.S. would be like, or how we would respond if we were attacked by nuclear war or weaponry. And it's a horrifying book to read, but it is informative about United States nuclear defense capabilities. Scary book. Juan Peter's Film and Grand Falloons by Kurt Vonnegut. One of my favorite reads of the year. These are his essays from the Vietnam War era, and I think they're so profound and well written, and I recommend this to everybody. Smart Baseball by Keith Law helps to explain some of the newer statistics in baseball and why some of the older ones aren't as helpful. Medium, decent read. Gets its job done. I, Asimov. This is Isaac Asimov's memoir. It's really long and self-indulgent. I love it because I like Isaac Asimov as a writer. If you don't like Isaac Asimov, you're not going to like this book. But if you do, I would recommend it. Nora Ephron, I Feel Bad About My Neck, and Other Thoughts on Being a Woman. The beginning of this was funny, but then I realized that Ephron was just a pretentious, middle-aged white woman, and it comes across as such throughout the whole collection. 101 Great American Poems by the American Poetry and Literacy Project. These were, they're great poems. I liked a lot of these, and it helped me find some new poets from America. So, yeah. Oh, the last one. Bernard Knox's translation of Oedipus the King. I have read Sophocles in the Paul Roche translations before, the Oedipus cycle, but this is my first time reading Knox, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Oedipus the King, Oedipus Rex is one of the greatest stories, I think, in the world. So, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I don't know if that's bad or not, but I was speaking quickly, and I hardly ever speak outside of YouTube. Nah, not true, but a little bit true. But anyways, those are my quick thoughts on the 96 books that I read this year so far, from January to the end of November. So let me know if I'm right or if I'm wrong about any of these reactive thoughts. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.